Welcome to Phil Phails. My name is Philip Jones, and today my guest is Craig Tennant. He's a certified shadow work facilitator, coach, and organizational consultant. Now we're going to talk about your life story.
Good.
I often start these at the beginning with where you were born. But I think you were born in Boston, right? I mean, I've heard you say that a couple times. But where were you born?
I was born at the South Shore Hospital in Weymouth, Massachusetts, which is a suburb of Boston.
Okay.
About 20 miles south.
What kind of family did you birth into?
Well, it was, I'm the youngest of five. So my two oldest brothers, Bill and Jim, and then my sisters, Denise and Joanne, and then me. And it was my mother and my father, Doris and Roger. And my father was the manager of the Radio Shack in downtown Boston. And my mother stayed at home and took care of us. And we were middle class or lower middle class. We had a house that they owned. But we didn't, I mean, I don't remember those early parts. And then my dad died in a car accident 1 week prior to my fourth birthday in 1966.
Your fourth birthday?
Yeah. So I didn't really know my dad. I've got some pictures, but I have a couple of vague little snippets of memory, but not really.
So you were raised by your mom.
So growing up, it was my mom
kids.
and my oldest brother went out to work right away and supported us. He worked at the gas station at the top of the street and learned how to be a mechanic.
Really?
Yeah.
I can't imagine being thrust into the
Father
head of the
role.
household, the father role.
And they told him too, like, you're the man of the house now.
How old was he?
13? Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, what was that like for you?
So for
Coming of
me,
age?
my awareness is a little later than that. I didn't have a lot of awareness I don't remember 4 years
Right.
old, right? So we didn't have a lot. When I went to elementary school at, 5 to kindergarten, my mother got a job working in the cafeteria of my elementary school. So I got to see her all the time. We didn't have a lot. She'd get paid and we'd have money and we'd eat well. And then the next week we wouldn't eat so well until she got paid again. So it was a little bit of a financial pendulum. But I never wanted for anything. Like I had all the basics. I ate. I always had food in front of me, and education was important and kind of drilled into us. So did well at school. I had great friends in the neighborhood. So, I mean, it wasn't until I got older, that I kind of had like other people have fathers. Like there's like, I didn't really, have this like awareness of it. I didn't really have this awareness of the impact of not having a father or having my father, die when I was so young.
Because it was just
with life. It was
life
the
for
way
you.
It was just did it. So
your mom didn't remarry, or did she date?
she remarried when I was 18.
Oh, that's a long time.
So really my whole childhood was just,
There weren't any men around.
Well, I had a really cool neighbor who was a lumberjack from Vermont, whose wife died like right before my father died.
Really?
And he was in his late 60s, and he had a one-man sawmill in his yard, which was 2 lots away from mine on a dead-end street. And I started hanging out with him. His name was Arthur Boley. He was and he had like baseball gloves for hands. He was like 6'4" with these huge hands. He was in his late 60s, and I would go out with him in his flatbed truck, and we'd cut down trees and bring him back and load him onto this sawmill that would run him through this big circular blade, and I would shovel the sawdust out of So I had him as an influence until I was about 10. He did a lot with me. I spent a lot of free time with him.
Really?
And I had friends in the neighborhood that we would play, but I had this guy. My brothers were busy doing their stuff. They were 8 and 10 years older than me.
Yeah.
Even though we shared a room, at one point we had a triple-decker bunk bed.
Triple-decker?
My brother Bill had the top one, and he used to wake up and hit his head because he was so close to the ceiling.
Yeah.
And I was in the middle, and I'd fall out and hit the floor. But it was a normal, I think I look back and I think it was kind of an angry bunch of people, and I can understand why. It seemed like there was a lot of anger in my family, but I never wanted for anything. And then when I was 10, my brothers left the house, and then my neighbor didn't want to see me anymore because he got upset with my mother. So the teen years were kind of rough, and I started checking out. I did a lot of drugs and alcohol starting at like 12.
You said it was an angry. What is that angry house like? Look
I
like?
just remember there being a lot of, goddamn kids are going to drive me to drink. My mother seemed angry. My brother Jim seemed angry.
Imagine your mom was overwhelmed
Yeah, I mean, I get it.
perpetually.
Yeah. It just seemed like there wasn't a lot of like warm, loving energy.
Yeah.
But I understand why. But it was more looking back that I, see that now. Like, oh, okay.
Did she use drugs and alcohol?
Did my mother?
Mm-hmm.
My mother drank port wine, and she didn't know that it was fortified with alcohol. It's just not regular wine. And she would drink like a couple of glasses. So there was some years there in my teens when she was, I would say, checked out. Like she would kind of pass out. And she later quit drinking, but she didn't use drugs. My mother was a hard worker, and she did. I mean, God bless my mother. She had 5 kids between the age of 4 and 13 to raise on her own.
Yeah.
And so I'm forever grateful for her, and she did the best she could.
Absolutely.
A quick story just to fast forward. The first training I did was called Pathways Core Training that Dr. Phil created. And I did that in 2001 at the age of 38, and I started learning about myself. And I invited her to come do that, and she did that at the age of 69, right after I did. And it changed in her later years, and in my late 30s, early 40s, it changed our relationship tremendously.
Really?
And then she got cancer and died, 4 years after that. So the last 4 years were a really special gift for me, where we got to clear things up. She apologized for things that she had done. I apologized for the way I was as a teen. And so a lot, yeah, I miss, it'll be 20 years this October since she passed away. Anyway, I did a lot of drugs and alcohol. I was really smart, but I didn't like school. I ended up turning 18 in December of my senior year. And they told me I could write my own notes, so I stopped going to school.
Wow.
And long and short of it is, I got my diploma, there's my Boston, my diploma the next fall. And I was in the restaurant business until I was 21. I moved up to assistant manager of a fine dining place at 21. And then I was like, I can't do this for the rest of my life.
What kind of kid were you? Were you a good kid?
A good kid. My mother used to say, you're the good one. You're the, quiet, good kid. I was very in my head. I tried to control everything. Probably still do. But a tall kid. I grew like 6 inches in my, at 15. I got really tall, skinny, quiet, introverted, shy.
Did you have a crew that you'd run with? Like
I had
sports crew or like a nerds crew? Or?
No, we were the the burnout crew.
Oh, you were at the burnouts?
Oh yeah,
stoners.
I was stoner. Yeah. Mike and Freddie were my 2 closest friends. Freddie's since passed away from cancer, and I haven't seen Mike. But before that, it was Doug and Dwayne Lloyd, the sergeants, the kids down the street. We had a field. We had a dead-end street with a field behind one of the houses that we could play baseball on. We played a lot of street hockey.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Started skating late, like when I was 12. First time I ever skated was on a frozen pond outside behind a gas station.
So you're an athlete. Or was it part of your life?
Yeah. No, I've always participated in sports. Now it's yoga and golf.
Mm-hmm.
But I played ice hockey starting at 12 as a goalie. And I haven't skated in a couple of years. I still have my equipment, and I'd like to get out. And my body's feeling like it can, but I haven't been out. But it was always intramural, and I was never like a star athlete.
Yeah.
And part of that was because I was a burnout.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so, yeah, what else do you want to know about?
Hmm. All of that. What did the drugs and alcohol look like? Did you have something that you were distracting yourself from, or was there an awareness of the cause of it?
No, at that time it was just looking for my next high because I knew I felt better at least for a while.
What were the drugs?
At first it was marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
My older sister and her boyfriend were in her room, and I was trying to get in, and like, you can't come in. And I said, well, if you don't let me in, I'm going to tell mom you're having sex with your boyfriend. And she says, all right, come in. And they were getting high, and I was like 12 or 13.
Wow.
And so they were like, here, have some. So marijuana for sure. And then beer,
Yeah.
we drank beer.
Yeah, alcohol. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then like 16, 17, and 18, it was hallucinogenics. It was,
LSD, mushrooms.
yeah, it was more like blotter acid,
Mhm.
purple microdot, Quaaludes. So did a lot of that, like eating pills and checking out.
I did that too.
And then I had a little Coke period for a while, like around 19 to 21. I did a bunch of Coke,
Wow.
which was at the very beginning of the 80s for me. I was born in 62. And then I stopped doing the Coke, and I cleaned myself up for a good while.
How the heck could you afford cocaine?
I was working in the restaurant business.
Oh yeah.
And when I was 18, I got this like check from Social Security because they were supposed to have paid me money because of my father, and they hadn't or something. So I got this big check, and I blew it on Coke.
Let's get an expensive habit. Yeah.
Well, it was interesting because Coke was also a way for me to like connect with my friends, because I would share it with them, and we would get coked out together.
And then you might be more communicative or more
something.
You would open up more.
Yeah. And then, so I started to clean myself up. I was still in the restaurant business, mid-20s. I met my now ex-wife, who is from Guatemala, in a restaurant in Boston, and we got married like after 8 months, and moved to Atlanta because I got a job at the software company, and they got bought by a software company out of Atlanta. And
what was your rock bottom with drugs? How did you get out of that hole?
Seems like when I did all that Coke at like 20 or so, like after that, I was like, I never did Coke again after that. So that was that part. And then I was just, I drank and smoked weed just pretty consistently for the next however many years. And actually found myself during the pandemic, drinking a lot of wine and checking out that way. So in the end of 2023, I kind of started to put the alcohol down, and then last year I put the weed down. But I don't know if you ever heard the song Sweet Leaf by Black Sabbath, but that was my song about marijuana. I've just really enjoyed being high.
Me too. That was always my drug of choice until there's been periods in my life of sobriety. I don't partake in any of that now. But
nor do I.
It has grabbed a hold of me, and it just won't let go for years at a time.
Yep. I became kind of a binge drinker. I would not drink during the week, and then Friday night get with my friends, and we would just get really drunk, you know, and then do that again. So
that was kind of part of your lifestyle.
That was a coping method, and then it was a lifestyle for me. That alcohol and weed were both present really up until just a couple of years ago.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, and I went through phases of more and less, and the pandemic didn't help.
No, the pandemic
for a lot of people, right? Yeah. It was like, is it coffee time or is it wine time? But I know so many people, but I carried a lot of shame about that. I carried a lot of shame about drinking and smoking, because I had this story that there was something wrong with me, and that's why I was doing it. You're broken. There's something wrong with you. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're saying. So, putting that down has been a really good decision for me.
Yeah. What prompted that?
I think with both of them, it was just an awareness. Like, number one, this is too much. Number two, I know what it's like to be this way most of the time, or a lot. And, I wonder what it would be like if I just put it down for a while. And I'm the kind of person that I never believed that I was powerless over either of those. You know, like people who go to AA say the first thing I have to do is recognize that I'm powerless over
Right.
that. I never believed that about myself. I always knew if I just wanted to make that choice, I would, but I didn't want to make the choice because I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. And something happened where I just stopped enjoying it, I think is really what happened. Stopped enjoying it, and I got a little scared. You know, I needed to be more, I found myself isolating, and I'm an introvert, so that's easy for me. And so I just made a choice to put it away, and it's been a really good choice.
It has.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm much, much more present and grounded. And, you know, I got to see like, oh, yeah, I'm angry. I've got that anger that I grew up in. And I found myself for a little while like, oh, yeah, stuff really pisses me off. And it's little things. It's traffic. It's the people at the yoga studio that get too close to me and all that kind of just little
Really?
things. People who bring their dogs to the supermarket bugs the shit out of me. So I've had to be like, oh, okay, yeah, that's how I cope is I feel angry.
Anger is your drug. You feel
Well,
alive, or you feel.
I've been able to, you know, there's two things that I've learned, and this is a great thing for your listeners is, you know, if you find yourself being angry by accident, start to practice being angry on purpose. You know, it's like the analogy of how do you teach a dog that's biting to stop biting, right? Is you teach it to bite on command, and then you don't issue the command.
Oh.
So part of my work has been recognizing when I'm angry before it comes out sideways and putting myself in a position to express that anger on purpose, which I can do in a Mankind Project group or on a New Warrior Training Adventure weekend or in a shadow work group or with people that I trust or on my own. You know, it's not as easy in my apartment because there's people around and it might bother them. But I do express my anger on purpose because then it doesn't come out and bite so much.
Yeah.
But it still does.
Yeah.
Shadow is deceptive.
It comes out sideways.
Yep.
All the time.
It comes out where it's not appropriate for the situation.
And you're not even oblivious. You're oblivious to it. You're like, I wasn't. You'll even defend that it wasn't there.
I was not angry.
I wasn't angry.
So
It's like, are you sure?
yeah. So, you know, that's been a part of that journey. And, you know, those last few years have been about almost like reliving those teen years with some different choices rather than checking out to stay present.
Like reparenting yourself?
Almost, or finding, you know, because I was alone. That was a big sense. The men in my life left. The neighbor left. My brothers left. I was left with my sisters and my mother. And I didn't have any real guidance. I didn't really have anybody that I could lean on. My mother did the best she could. My sisters weren't, they were with their own stuff. They couldn't really help me. So I didn't have a good father figure at really after 10 at all. And I didn't trust men, and I didn't, you know what I mean? I didn't have a place to go where someone would go, you know, looks like you're angry. Let's get some of that out, right? So I didn't want to feel all that. I didn't want to feel the fear. So I became aware. I started putting it down, like, all right, don't drink, don't get high. And, I'm feeling angry. All right, well, I better do something productive with that. And I put myself in positions to express it and own it and recognize and just let it be okay that I'm angry.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm angry and there's nothing wrong with me.
Yeah.
It's a normal emotion, even if it looks like it wants to come out sideways. You know, so have compassion for myself for feeling angry and
Almost
not always
saying-
handling it right.
Saying that quiet part out loud.
That's it.
I'm angry right now at, you know, I get angry in yoga class. Dude,
I don't even know what it is, but I know I feel angry.
It's funny. It's funny to get angry at a yoga class.
Well, I
lady-
have this sense of like what's right and wrong. And
I do
know,
too.
And I know I'm a hypocrite because, you know, the stuff that I point out about other people, I don't do. But like, you know, there's always somebody that comes in 10 minutes late to the class
yeah.
and swings the door open.
Oh,
and
yeah.
They walk in, look around, they slap their mat.
Yes.
And the teacher's leading a meditative piece. And so I just feel inside, like my body clenches up and I think,
it's inviting
you don't give
you
a
to
shit about
acceptance.
anybody.
It's inviting you to accept
yeah.
that. And because I've come in late too, I try not to slap anything around, but I have that exact same. I have that experience.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want anybody to come late. And so now when I'm rushing to be late, I'm myself judging myself. So I have to try to tiptoe in there.
Mm-hmm.
But it's important to say, like, oh, I could be that person coming in late.
Yeah.
Make that me.
And that's kind of been present for me. It happened this morning, and I'm like, okay, my opportunity to let it go,
Yeah.
you know, and to recognize, like, if that's building up in me, saying let it go and just being mindful can be a way of stuffing it,
Hmm.
and that doesn't help. So
You should say, like, I don't like when people are late.
well, here's what I've done. Like, here's a situation, and I do this sometimes and not all the time. I had a guy in the middle of a class, and it was in January when, you know, everybody's coming at the beginning of the year because it's their New Year's,
New Year's resolutions.
you know, for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
It's really crowded. And this guy started coming, and like he got up, and it was January. It was cold out. And he went and opened the door and walked outside and stood outside for, you know, a minute, and then opened the door, and all the wind came in, and he came back to his mat. And so at the end of the class, I went over to him and I introduced myself, and I said, hey, I noticed you got up and left during the class, and I have an ask of you. And I don't always get what I want, but I've learned if I don't express it, then I just feel angry, and I don't want to feel angry. And I said, would you be willing next time just to get closer to the floor, you know, rather than opening the door? Because when you open the door, it impacted me, and I judge it impacts everybody else in here. And he's like, oh, well, you know, I thought I was going to pass out. And I was like, okay, I understand that.
Oh, because it's hot yoga. Right.
Maybe you could do a shorter class next time. He's like, well, I don't usually have that happen. And so the result of that is I know this guy's name. He knows my name.
Right.
And now when he sees me, and I said, thank you for hearing me.
Yeah.
Which was a way of expressing my anger, like avoiding the anger, because I said what I needed to say.
Right.
And that's been a big part of my work, to have
in a safe way,
to do it in a way that wasn't attacking.
Yeah,
him.
It was skillful.
It was skillful. I judge it was skillful. And now I see him, and he's like, hey, Craig.
Your friends.
Hi, Ari. You know, how you doing? And he hasn't done it again. So I got my point across. So that's what I'm talking about, is like, it's not just, oh, I'm going to be Zen here and let it be okay, because that's stuffing it for me.
Okay.
It's about giving it a voice in a skillful or productive way, or in a way that's not attacking them.
Well, you're inviting connection as well. They say, or I've heard this saying, that in order to influence, you have to connect.
Yeah. And I did.
Now he says your name, he says hi.
And that's not always how I do it. Sometimes I just go, F you for coming in late under my breath, because I'm not always skillful.
We can't be the Buddha all the time.
Well, that's what I'm working on, and it works more than it does less.
Yeah.
And I teach my clients this stuff, and I tell them, look, I'm not perfect at it, but if you want to get results, this is a better way to do it.
Yeah. Do you have an idea of having like a core wound from your childhood?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know, in the work that I do, it's like, what's your shadow, right?
Yeah.
Your shadow is a message about yourself that's not a positive message.
What was your core wound?
Well, I just told you earlier, and I'll tell you again. I'm broken.
Mm-hmm.
There's something wrong with me. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Mm.
And I know where that came from. You know, my family of origin, because they felt the same way about themselves, they had some of that same core wounding, you know, helped to deliver some of that messages in the way that they spoke to me, and what they said to me, and how they behaved with me. Because I was the young one. I was the baby. And so I don't blame them. And I understand why. And I'm also clear that that is my shadow, is that there's something wrong with me. I'm different, and that's bad. And I'm broken. And that shadow message is different than it was. It doesn't own me. I don't behave out of that shadow the way that I used to so much. Right? But I'm aware that that's still there. And that core wounding from a young age doesn't completely go away.
Right.
When I get into stressful situations, that's when it comes up.
Of course.
And so my reaction to that is I got to do it right. And so I'm inflated warrior around what we call upholding energy in shadow work. It's like there's a right way to do things, and by the way, it's my way.
Always. Yeah.
Which is useful as a shadow work coach and facilitator, but I can become rigid.
Mm-hmm.
So I work on not being as rigid, like blessing the people who come in late, not knowing what's going on in their life.
Yeah.
Have compassion, because when I have compassion for them, I'm having compassion for me.
Right.
But that is my core wound is, at the harshest, it's that I'm broken.
Yeah.
Like when God made me, I was the defective one.
Yeah. How many frameworks have you tried in your search before you found shadow work seems to be the one that worked for you? And you also spoke of pathways.
Pathways was great. Pathways had a lot of what I call shaming messaging in it. Dr. Phil has that style.
Were there others?
No, because really it wasn't until I was 38 that I started that journey.
Really?
I had been divorced and I was in a relationship with a woman who went to Pathways, and then she invited me to go. And that just like all of a sudden things opened up, like, oh my gosh, this is like I cried for the first time as an adult in that training, like a good sob.
Yeah.
And I remembered that it was the last time I'd done that was when I was 12 years old.
Wow.
And I didn't cry a real cry from 12 to 38. And so I did that. I volunteered over there for about 8 years. I helped lead portions of the training.
So you got deep in pathways.
I did. I really liked it. And I'm sure I was obnoxious about it.
Did you have to be bald to be a part of that program?
Bald?
Mm-hmm.
No. I had hair then.
That's a joke.
Yeah.
Because Dr. Phil's bald, right?
I think he has side hair.
Yeah, he's got the friar.
Yeah. Friar hair.
But you had hair back then.
I had hair
and
back then.
And they let you participate anyway.
And they let me participate anyway. And then somebody that I knew from Pathways mentioned the Mankind Project.
Really?
Yeah. And I waited 4 years from the time they first mentioned it to do it. I did that in 2010. And then that was like, oh, wow, this is a lot less shaming. It's a lot more kind. And it was intense. And I came out of that with a sense of how I fit in to the big picture better. And I've been involved in that. I've staffed weekends in Mexico 3 times, all in Spanish. I've staffed around the country. I've this coming up next weekend. I'll be staffing my 19th New Warrior Training Adventure.
Wow. ¿Hablas español?
Sí, hablo suficiente. A veces no entiendo porque las personas hablan muy rápido.
Sí.
Pero sí entiendo y yo he estudiado en la escuela secundaria y también en la universidad.
Yeah, yo también.
Es muy importante en Cuernavaca. Sí. We've had trainings the 3 times I staffed the New Warrior Training Adventure was in Cuernavaca.
Oh, it's a beautiful city.
Yeah. We were outside of the city. We were in a kind of a poorer area. There was a site called Quinta El Sopilote.
Okay.
And it was a retreat center out in the middle of a more of a suburb. But it was a great experience. A little overwhelming with the language.
I imagine.
Made some great connections.
I got my minor in Spanish. Goodness, we have so many similarities.
Parallels, yeah.
It is.
Interesting.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. That's why I married a woman from Guatemala.
Oh, okay.
Because I spoke Spanish and she didn't speak a lot of English. So.
We have about 9 minutes.
All right.
And I'm
I love being time. My warrior loves to be time accountable.
Yeah, I figured. But I want you to feel safe with that stuff.
Thank you.
What has been unsaid that needs to be said? Or is there anything you want to share about your life or shadow work as we kind of come to land in this plane?
It doesn't seem like there's anything unsaid. What I hope has come across in this discussion is that I love shadow work. I love how it's impacted me, how the ways that I act and react out of shadow have shifted in my life, and it's brought more calm and peace. Thus the fingernails is one. I attribute that to the shadow work that I've done. I love talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's enjoyable for me. It's interesting for me. I think that the way that I'm wired works well to do that work, because there's like in my software services career and in shadow work, there's a holding a lot of information and then slicing through it, cutting the chaff or the chaff from the wheat. So I don't think there's anything left unsaid other than to say I hope that what's come across is, I think it's really beneficial. It's been beneficial for me, and I hope, your listeners who want to have more of the experience that they're looking for, will check it out.
Yeah.
Will reach out to me. We'll look at the Shadow Work site and find ways to get engaged in that. Because my guess is that your viewers and listeners are seekers as well.
I would imagine.
And if you're a seeker, and you want more of what you want, check out Shadow Work. Get in touch with me. I'm happy to discuss it with you at any time.
How do they find you?
How did you find me?
How did they find you?
How do they find
How do these guys find you?
Yeah, they can find me at my website. I work mostly with corporate professionals, and I use shadow work in that coaching. My company is Engaging Breakthroughs, and so they can go to LinkedIn and find me, Craig Tennant, or they can go to my website, www.engagingbreakthroughs.com, and you can set up a time, just a time to talk. I call it a complimentary consultation, and I don't sell people on anything. I'm happy to talk with you about whatever you have going on, especially as your listener, right? I'll kid gloves, and I'll make recommendations on ways you can get more of what you're looking for, whether it's working with me or elsewhere.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Yep.
I
love when, it could be the Mankind Project, it could be shadow work related, it could be anything.
Yeah. Get informed on shadow work.
Yeah.
And I'll, probably invite you to come on again, and we can talk more about shadow work.
Yeah.
And we can think about what that might look like. And I'll invite you to, as you leave here, think about what that might look like.
Well, I already have ideas about that.
You do?
I mean, yeah, we can talk about, we can talk about, now that we've done an introduction, we could talk about, different ways people are wounded, and the ways more specifically. We can talk about process a little bit more.
Yeah.
We can talk about what happens when somebody's wounded in the sovereign and they're wounding in the lover or the warrior or the magician. We can talk about characteristics of all of those. We can talk a lot about more details of shadow work.
I wonder if we could do a shadow work process with me as the person that's having the work done.
Well, I was thinking about offering that to you on I wasn't thinking on camera.
Would it be scary to do it on camera?
I don't have any fear about that. So
I like the idea of showcasing that stuff.
Could be scary for you because there's a vulnerability in that.
Yeah.
Right. So my role is as a guide. So I'm very open to discussing that possibility with you. I was thinking I'd offer you a private coaching session if you wanted to do it, to get an experience with it.
And then I could talk about it next time we meet or something. We could talk about the experience. It sounds like there's a lot of different ways we could approach a continued discussion.
Yeah, I would like that.
Yeah,
I've enjoyed this very much today.
Yeah.
I love that we have a lot in common, and I love what you bring to the discussion. Which is, different. Like in the Mankind Project, we say, every man is my father, every man is my son, every man is my teacher, every man is my student. And that, I think that's here, like you have things that you know about that I know nothing about. And I happen to know about shadow work.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And I know other things that you don't know about. And so I like that. It's kind of a give and take.
And I'm also a little bit excited about coming and being a guest at your I group.
Yeah.
And being a part of an I group. I haven't been a part of a formal I group since my new Warrior Adventure training. I've had regular meetings with Mankind Project men, but never that formalized I group over and over again, and a part of me wants that experience.
Well, I'm going to be the king on our next one, which is a week from Monday
Yeah.
on the 7th. And the king means that I'm going to lead that session. We have different
Yeah.
men that step up to lead each time we meet. And our group meets twice a month. And, if you're a man and you're wanting to connect with other men and maybe sit in a group and just check it out, you can always reach out to me about being a guest at we call it I group. It's an integration group. And it's a way to really create connection and get support in a way that's, it's not a religious thing. It's not, I judge that it's not threatening. And most men that come to sit in circle with us come away with a positive experience. So feel free to reach out to me about that as well.
Heck yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also check out the discussion I had with David Garrison.
David Garrison.
We did
who I know
Phil
quite
Phails
well.
at Men's
Yep,
Work.
Yep.
And Craig knows David Garrison.
I
and
do.
He's a shared relationship.
David
of
is a
ours.
powerful man.
Yeah, he is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love David.
Yep.
All right, I'll wrap it up. What do you think?
I think it was great.
Yeah. This has been Phil Phails at Shadow Work with Craig Tennant. He is a certified shadow work facilitator, coach, and organizational consultant.
Mm-hmm.
And man, this has been a real treat for me, a real pleasure.
Thank you all for listening. I hope you found some value, and thank you for having me here today.
Yeah.
It's been great.
Are you a hugger, a handshaker, a fist bumper? What do you like to do?
In Pathways, the Pathways training,
Yeah.
we introduced hugging, and the way we did it was you'd go up into and it was co-gender.
Okay.
So you go in front of another person and you'd say, one is a handshake. Let's see. No, one was like, just want to say hi.
Mm-hmm.
2 was I'll shake your hand.
Mm-hmm.
3 was I'll give you a little bit of a side hug.
Okay.
And then 4, it was a heart-to-heart hug.
Okay.
I'm a 4.
Yeah, I'll 4.
I'm a heart-to-heart.
Would you like to 4 now?
Oh, hell yeah.
Let's do it. Just swivel this guy out, and we'll just end this with a hug.
Sounds good. Can we stand?
Heck yeah.
All right. Oh, thanks, brother. My pleasure. Mm-hmm.